What's up, YouTube? Today I have another code-related video for you. You guys know that I'm a bootcamp graduate and my story behind that, but today's question is it possible to be a self-taught programmer and then make it into the professional world? Well, the answer to that question is yes, because my friend and coworker Katie is done just exactly that and has learned everything she knows from online resources, social media, and figuring out everything she knows by herself. And she's agreed to do an interview with me where I'm asking the questions that you might want to know if you're on the fence about a boot camp or on the fence about college, or you can't afford boot camp or you can't afford college but you still want to change your field. Just how possible would that be? So if you come with me, we'll jump on into this interview. Okay, so this is my coworker Katie, and she is completely self-taught, and I wanted to get the word out of what it's like to actually go from not knowing any programming to being completely self-taught and working professionally. So you just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Katie. I started learning coding in like 2014, um, and I started working pretty quickly for friends and family because they just needed somebody, and realized that I really want to do this professionally. So um, Josh and I met at our last job, and yeah,
So why did you want to learn to code?
really it kind of came out of I needed something to do. Like I had a period of time where I wasn't working very much, and I wanted something that actually occupied my brain. So I just sort of stumbled on Code Academy and tried their like basic JavaScript course, and it was really cool. And so I just kept going from there. Not that you should only stick to Code Academy, but it's a great introduction if you've never done coding. Um, yeah, so that's why I just really enjoyed it. I loved being able to make things that people would actually use that are sort of, you know, challenging problems. It's like solving puzzles all day, kind of. I don't know. It was fun. It was fun, and you made things that people actually needed.
So how long did it take you, and like how much time did you put into the being self-taught until you felt like confident enough to start asking to be paid for it or start looking for jobs? How long did that take?
So the confident enough to start being paid for it is a different answer than looking for like real jobs. A friend of mine, I told her that I was a web developer, sort of self-teaching as I went along, and she needed a website, and so she was like, "Can I hire you?" And I had never worked for anyone before because it was pretty early on, and I agreed. And that was a lot of like plain old HTML and some pre-built like plugin type deals because I had so little knowledge about what I was doing overall. But I learned a lot, and I made like a tiny bit of money on it.
So did you ever think about going to a code boot camp? Did you ever hear about them even?
So I kind of just built my own boot camp from a variety of sources, mostly free. Yes, I did read MDN, but that was like the least helpful thing that anyone could tell me when I was starting out because it was just gibberish. Um, I needed blogs. I needed to follow people on Twitter and see what they were talking about. I joined a live coding website where people would just code for an audience, and I started coding what I was doing, and people would tell me about things that I didn't know existed, and I grew a lot that way. So I didn't really, I am self-taught, but I didn't self-teach in a vacuum. I used resources that other people had created, and I talked to other people who already knew what they were doing. So
So how long did it take you to go from knowing nothing and being self-taught to getting the first like non-freelance professional corporate type job?
okay, so for non-freelance, I would have to say at least a year and a half. I started applying after a full year of freelancing, and it took a while because nobody wants to take that big of a risk. Or not nobody, but few people want to take that big of a risk on someone who's completely self-taught, who has no connections. And so there's no one that can vouch for their skills. But I did have someone actually watch me stream, and that's kind of how I got my first job. I heard afterwards that they were not sure what I could do, but then they decided to watch my stream and saw that my process was, I was capable enough.
So what would you tell someone who thinks that they can change their career path completely going the self-taught route? What do they need to learn? Do they need to, is networking key, certain technologies over other ones? What do you think?
I would say that you can do it, but it's definitely not the easy route. And I don't know if there's any easy route, but self-teaching is definitely difficult. You know, you have to have a lot of time to invest in it. You have to be just reading and exploring to try to find the things that you don't know, because no one is going to come up to you and say, you know how to do this section, but you really need to know how to upload a static site to a server or something. Like, there's no one there telling you these are the pieces that you're missing. So you have to be researching and reading all the time. You have to be coding all the time. You have to go through lots of tutorials and read as much documentation as you can absorb and read the books that you can find. And you have to know your own limits too, so that you don't overwhelm yourself. If you want to be self-taught, it is possible. But if that's what you want to do, if you have the patience and you want to save the money, then go for it.
What did you do when you got stuck on things when you were trying to learn? Because that was my hardest thing. Even though I went to a boot camp, I still got stuck. And they would give us homework problems, and I'd still get stuck. And you're self-taught. You don't even have the resources of a person, just all you. What did you do? Get mad?
That's like the biggest pitfall of being self-taught. You will get stuck for days, even weeks sometimes. You'll just have to leave something alone and come back to it. And because you just don't know why you're stuck. You have no idea. You look at what you are seeing and like, for example, a friend of mine who is also self-taught, who I've been talking to when he gets stuck, I told him, you're going to need someone sometimes, so go ahead and call me or message me if you need it. Trying to transform a set of data, and the function he was using, you needed to be able to return whatever you executed, and he had done everything correct. He had no idea why it wasn't working. He just didn't have a return statement. And so he was sitting there like, why is this not working? And finally he reached out, like, why is this not working? I'm doing it the way the example says. And then I said, oh, you're missing a return statement. And then we went into a conversation about how some functions need to return something, some of them don't. Especially if you're transforming your data, you probably need to return it. So sometimes it can be something that tiny, and you will be stuck on it for a long time, and that's okay. And you're going to have to move forward and come back to it unless you know somebody to ask. And I would suggest trying to get on social media and finding people who are into it. Go to meetups, join some kind of Slack groups so that you have that person in case you really are stuck.
So when you actually got that first like corporate job and you were all self-taught freelance before, like how were you overwhelmed? Were there tons of things that you didn't know? Like how prepared were you, even though you're self-taught and they're giving you the chance to work?
I was sort of prepared. I did not know everything that I did not know, obviously. There were a lot of things that were being thrown at me, and I had joined at a time in my previous job, or in that job, where they had a lot of people taking vacations, so there weren't a lot of people that I could ask questions of in a timely way. However, because I was self-taught, I got really good at Googling and Googling for the right things. And there was a lot of code to look at for examples. So I could go searching through their code base to try to figure out if they'd solved this problem already. Not that it was the cleanest code when I first started, but
Probably like add that to your toolkit that you put on a resume. Expert Googler. I mean, I don't know, as a developer, that's a good depending on your experience on what you're working on, that's a good 40%.
Sure. I think people underestimate how much of development is just knowing what to ask, knowing what to look for. And that's really what you're trying to do when you're self-taught, is getting enough knowledge, enough terminology, enough references to know what to look for when you get stuck. And that's really where the problems lie. If you don't know what to look for, that's why you're stuck. So
If you could go back in time and kick yourself in the butt and tell yourself to do something different, what would you do?
I wouldn't actually change the way that I did it, because every little step came with some really important learning. But my advice would be, like, offer your skills to the people around you. If you're learning, tell them you're learning, offer to do it for free or really cheap, depending on who they are and what they need, and just learn as you go. No one is expecting a beginner to build something perfect. You're not going to get something overly performant. Just do it, and you'll get better as you go.
So I just want to thank you for your time, and hopefully someone out there can learn something from this.
Just thanks for having me. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out on this vid or on Twitter, and we can work from there.
All right, everybody. So if you like this video, if these answers helped you, then make sure to leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll make sure to get to them, or you can send her a message on Twitter. I'll put it on the screen here. You can see her username and go hit her up there. And if you want to see more videos talking about this, then make sure to click that little bell and subscribe to this channel. In my next video, I'm going to be interviewing my friend and also coworker that has a computer science degree and was also a developer at my company. And we're going to get his opinion on boot camp versus college versus self-taught, and then we just kind of have the trio there. So if you want to see that, make sure to stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video, guys.